Speaking of existential crises to America itself, the invasion at America's southern border is, I believe, a deliberate attempt to reshape who and what America is. Joining me now from the southern border in Yuma, Arizona, Wisconsin Congressman Tom Tiffany, as well as a surprise guest. You know him and love him well. He is a congressman from Ohio, conservative superstar Jim Jordan. Gentlemen, welcome to the Dan O'Donnell Show.
Good to be with you, Dan.
It is absolutely my pleasure to have you. Congressman Tiffany, what have you seen at the border so far?
So we just rolled in last night. I was actually in Yuma a year ago, and what we saw was just, unfettered access, gaps in the wall, people rolling into this country, overwhelming the infrastructure they have. We're headed for the Yuma Hospital right now, and we're going to hear about how the hospital is overwhelmed. But think about it, Dan. Put it in context for Wisconsinites. 5.8 million people since Joe Biden took office in January 20th of 2021. A state the size of Wisconsin has come illegally into America.
That is absolutely staggering. Congressman Jordan, what is the proper role of Congress here? How can you essentially use your oversight authority to get the Biden administration to actually do its constitutionally delegated job and enforce the southern border?
Well, we'll pass legislation out of our committee, and then through the House, we'll see what the Senate will do with it. But legislation to fix the problem, immigration enforcement legislation. But the real problem is the Mayorkas and the Biden administration just aren't enforcing the law. And it's I always tell people, it seems to me there are three fundamental questions: how did it happen? Why does it matter, and how do you fix it? Well, we know the answer to one and three. How did it happen? Is they went away from the policies that work. We had a witness a couple of weeks ago in a hearing, Sheriff Daniels from down here in Arizona, who testified. He said in 38 years in his time in law enforcement, he said the best the border has ever been was a few years ago in the Trump administration. The best it's ever been in 38 years was in the Trump administration. The worst it's ever been is now. So that dramatic of a change in 2 years, and it happened because on day one, Joe Biden said, we're not going to continue building the wall. We're not going to have remain in Mexico while we evaluate people's asylum claims, and we're not going to deport anyone for an immigration violation. So when you say those things, you tell people, like, you won't have to wait, you won't have to get over a wall, and you won't get deported. Well, Shazam, of course people are going to come, and that's what you have the numbers that Tom just talked about. You fix it by changing those policies, going back to the policies that work. But today what we're really going to figure out, I think, is why it matters. We're going to hear from folks in the school administration. We're going to hear from folks in the hospital, in the healthcare, how it matters in the area of crime. So that's the concern, and that's why we're down here seeing and hearing firsthand from people who it's impacting on a daily basis.
Congressman Jordan, you seem to be directly implying that this is deliberate. So to add to your list of questions, I guess I would ask, why is this happening? Why is the Biden administration, why is Secretary Mayorkas deliberately allowing people and actually enticing them to come to the United States illegally?
It's intentional. It is deliberate. It is purposeful. It is premeditated. But the big question is, why are they doing it? Why would they do this to our country? And just as importantly, why would they allow this to happen where the cartels are making all this money, moving people, moving fentanyl, which impacts our community? Why would they allow this to and what happens to women and children on this trek where they have to pay the cartels to get to the United States? I don't know. Is it political? Is it they just don't like Trump and they're so against his policies? I don't know. But it's so wrong and it's so bad. The country's figured it out, and I think the country's going to have this on their mind when we head to the next election for president and for the control of Congress.
Well, I think no one wants to answer the question, but Arizona used to be, and I'm not saying you don't want to answer the question. Nobody wants to say this out loud, but Arizona used to be a pretty red state. It is now trending reliably blue. Democrats have been openly talking for the better part of 20 years about demographics being destiny and how eventually Texas is going to go from a reliably conservative Republican state to a Democratic state. I don't think there's any question about what the intention is Congressman Jim Jordan and Tom Tiffany joining me from the southern border. And Congressman Tiffany, we're here in Wisconsin. And oftentimes it seems like we are so far away from the problem, but we are really dealing with the effects of the open border, not just in the influx of people, but also, as Congressman Jordan said, the dramatic increase in fentanyl. And I know this is a big problem in your district.
Every state's a border state. Talk to any sheriff. Your listeners, Dan, I urge them, go talk to a police chief or a sheriff in any county in Wisconsin. They will tell you this is a major problem. My home county, Oneida County, far northern Wisconsin, number one cause of death has become fentanyl. It outstripped car accidents in the last year. Just think about that. So every state is now a border state. But just think about it. So set aside the human trafficking, perhaps the largest human trafficking operation in the history of the world our United States government is complicit in. Set aside that there's been more people on the terror watch list come into America in the last 2 years than ever before. Set those two things aside. Just fentanyl alone should cause every Republican, every Democrat, anyone of any particular political persuasion to do something about this. This is a national emergency, and we have one party that says, no, we're going to ignore it. And it is incredible to watch this happen. That's why we are really hoping and planning in the Judiciary Committee to pass these bills. We have a series of bills teed up. We can get them out of the Judiciary Committee, and hopefully we can get to 218 and show the American people that this can be dealt with. Securing the border can be done, and we're going to provide the leadership for that.